It was 1356 in China, the 23rd year of Togun Timur's reign as the Great Khan of the Mongol Empire of the Great Yuan. The Mongol forces had suffered significant defeats against internal enemies, particularly the Red Turbans, leading to the loss of control over the southern part of the empire. A year prior, the Red Turbans had been on the brink of collapse, almost annihilated by the formidable Mongol lord Asen Timur of Henan and his eunuch General Yang. However, under the new leadership of a young former monk named Zhu Changba, the Red Turbans not only endured but inflicted such heavy losses on their opponents that the Yuan was forced to retreat. While Asen Timur and General Yang regrouped and sought support from the powerful, Yuan loyalist Zhang family, salt merchants who controlled the eastern seaboard, Zhu Changba rapidly ascended the ranks of the Red Turbans. He found allies in his sworn brother, Shu Da, and his wife, Ma Shuying, but also encountered enemies among the movement's leaders. Buoyed by their success against the Yuan, and despite internal divisions, the revitalized Red Turbans seized city after city in the south, culminating in their capture of the former imperial capital, Binliang. Asen Timur and General Yang, in concert with the Zhang family, planned to retake Binliang for the Yuan. However, unbeknownst to Asen Timur, his trusted companion General Yang had secretly brokered a deal with the Zhang family. With the assistance of General Zhang and Asen Timur's own brother, Lord Wang Baoshang, the treacherous eunuch murdered Asen Timur at Binliang and seized his army, declaring his intention to march to the capital and exact revenge upon the Great Khan, his father's killer. Yang's betrayal of the Yuan provided Zhu Changba with an opportunity for his own treachery. He ruthlessly deposed the Red Turban's prime minister and Prince of Radiance, consolidating control of the movement. Zhu Changba established his new capital in Yingtian, on the Yangtze River. He adopted the imperial name Zhu Yanzhong, styled himself the Radiant King, and proclaimed his possession of the Mandate of Heaven. Meanwhile, the Zhang family renounced their loyalty to the Great Yuan, claiming the resource-rich eastern seaboard as their independent kingdom, with walled Pingzhong as its capital. The last surviving former Red Turban leader, the urbane but brutal Chen Yuliang, fled the slaughter at Binliang and established himself at Wuchang, upriver from Zhu Yanzhong. Unnoticed by many, Lord Wang Baoshang of Henan assumed his deceased brother's title, the Prince of Henan, and laid claim to the largest estate in the Great Yuan. This was the state of the world in the 85th year of the Khans descended from Kublai Khan, the first Great Khan and founding emperor of the Mongol Empire of the Great Yuan. In August 1356, Zhu Yanzhong, disguised in Golden King's armor and a gilded wooden hand to conceal her true identity, met Madame Zhang on a salt-blazed plain at the border of their kingdoms. Madame Zhang, representing her husband, the king of Pingzhong, proposed that Zhu surrender. She emphasized the disparity in their forces and offered Zhu a ducal or princely title in a new empire under her husband, once they marched on Dadu and seized the throne from the Yuan. Zhu, despite recognizing the strategic logic of such a surrender, defiantly declared her ambition, not merely to be great, but to be the greatest. Madame Zhang, underestimating Zhu due to her perceived youth and lack of traditional masculinity, scornfully dismissed her, advising her to consider her natural place. Zhu, inwardly amused, resolved to change the world and make it possible. Upon returning to Yingtian, Zhu found her wife, Ma Shuying, overseeing the vast construction of their new palace and the city's defenses. Ma, though initially critical of Zhu's posturing at the border, quickly grasped Zhu's grander vision. Zhu revealed her plan to acquire another army by marching to Binliang and confronting General Yang, the eunuch who had betrayed the Yuan. Ma, initially wary of conflict, was reassured by Zhu's promise of a battle-free mission. This mission involved spreading silk rolls soaked in an explosive mixture throughout Binliang, designed to ignite after a day, causing a city-wide conflagration and forcing Yang's army into disarray. Meanwhile, Yang, consumed by grief and a burning desire for revenge against the Great Khan for Asen Timur's death, was impatiently waiting for the opportune moment to march on Dadu. His pain was a constant, overwhelming force, occasionally leading him to self-mutilation with a heated knife to temporarily quell the emotional agony. His commanders, Xiao, Zheng, and Shu, grew increasingly uneasy with his erratic behavior and the dwindling morale of their conscripted army. Xiao, in particular, voiced his concern about the army's loyalty and suggested raiding Zhu Yanzhang's peripheral cities for supplies, a suggestion Yang vehemently rejected, prioritizing his march to Dadu. When news arrived that the Great Khan had returned to Dadu, Yang's elation was palpable. However, Xiao, having observed Yang's self-destructive tendencies and realizing Yang's suicidal ambition threatened the army's cohesion, decided to act. He confronted Yang, attempting to usurp command. Yang, fueled by fury, was imprisoned by Xiao, who offered him a poisoned meal, hinting at Yang's self-harming tendencies with a veiled reference to a knife. Zhu and Ma, leading a camel train disguised as silk merchants, approached Binliang. Ma, despite her Simu nomadic background, possessed an innate grace and wisdom that captivated others. They were unexpectedly invited to General Yang's headquarters, which heightened Zhu's unease. Upon arriving, Zhu quickly realized that the general who greeted them was not Yang but Xiao. In a flash of insight, Zhu deduced that Yang had been deposed, likely murdered by Xiao, and that Xiao intended to seize their valuable silk cargo. During the night, while Xiao kept Ma at the headquarters, Zhu orchestrated a chaotic diversion. She released the tethered horses and camels, causing a stampede and distracting the guards. This allowed her to slip away and rescue Ma. As chaos erupted, the explosive silk rolls ignited prematurely, setting Binliang ablaze. The conflagration provided the perfect cover for Zhu to infiltrate the compound and find Ma, who was imprisoned in an underground cell along with Yang. To Zhu's shock, Yang was alive but appeared a mere shadow of his former self, consumed by a raw, unrestrained agony. She also noticed the spectral presence of Yang's ghosts, hovering around him, drawn by his pain. Yang was rescued by Zheng and Chu, who, despite their earlier concerns, still believed in his cause. He quickly murdered Xiao, who had been trying to usurp command, and ordered his remaining forces to prepare for an immediate march on Dadu, even as Binliang burned behind them. However, as Yang's army exited Binliang, they were ambushed by Zhu's forces, flying distinctive yellow banners. Yang's men, demoralized and exhausted, began to surrender en masse. Zhu, in a display of calculated ruthlessness, confronted Yang, revealing her intention to borrow his army to defeat the Zhang family before marching on Dadu to face the Great Khan. She offered Yang the mercy of killing the Great Khan himself, once she achieved her goals. Zhu, recognizing Yang's desperate need for revenge, assured him that his suffering would eventually be worth it. Meanwhile, in Khanbalik, Wang Baoshang, the new prince of Henan, navigated the treacherous imperial court. He presented the Great Khan with a gift, subtly reminding him of Asen Timur's loyalty. Baoshang immediately faced the empress's venomous hostility, who held him responsible for her brother Altan's downfall, and the third prince's cruel contempt. Despite his effeminate demeanor and the scorn it drew, Baoshang possessed a sharp intellect and a burning ambition fueled by a lifetime of humiliation. He secured a position as vice minister of revenue, leveraging Lady Qi's influence over the Great Khan, whose favor relied on Goryeo salt tribute after the Zhang family's defection. Baoshang, driven by a deep-seated hatred for his deceased brother Asen Timur, and a desire to dismantle the Mongol Empire that had scorned him, began to subtly manipulate the court. He recognized that the Grand Counselor, the power behind the throne, was the only one who truly understood the empire's precarious position. Baoshang initiated a clandestine relationship with the third prince, exploiting his insecurities and latent desires to gain influence. He used his administrative position to secretly funnel funds, ostensibly for the Grand Counselor, to his own network, all while meticulously covering his tracks. Zhu, having acquired Yang's army, immediately marched on the Zhang family's territory, taking city after city. Yang, still imprisoned but now with his army reintegrated into Zhu's forces, found himself reluctantly aiding Zhu's campaign. Zhu, recognizing his intense internal torment, began to apply acupuncture needles to his body, inflicting carefully controlled pain that served as a release from his emotional anguish. This provided Yang with a perverse sense of mercy and allowed Zhu to maintain a fragile control over him. Zhu's next target was Taizhou, a salt-rich city. Zhu, Shu Da, and Yang, disguised as performers, infiltrated the city. Zhu discovered that the salt warehouses were on a heavily fortified island. Leveraging Yang's exceptional swimming abilities and her Mandate of Heaven's ability to generate light underwater, they planned a daring underwater infiltration through limestone tunnels. Yang, despite his profound hatred for Zhu, agreed, recognizing this as his only chance to regain his army and fulfill his revenge. During the treacherous underwater journey, Yang nearly gave in to panic but was sustained by Zhu's unwavering resolve. Shu Da nearly drowned during the transit but was revived by Yang using a rudimentary resuscitation technique. Upon reaching the island, Zhu, with Yang's knowledge of Yuan military operations, orchestrated a surprise attack on the guard post, using bombs delivered via kite to the roof. The attack caused a massive explosion, allowing Zhu's forces to overwhelm the garrison and seize the salt. During the assault, Zhu and Yang, despite their mutual animosity, found themselves fighting in a strange, almost synchronized dance, a testament to their intertwined fates. Yang, witnessing Zhu's unwavering determination, felt a stirring of something akin to admiration, even as he continued to despise her. Back in Khanbalik, Baoshang continued to sow discord. He exploited the ongoing rivalry between Lady Qi and the Empress, skillfully manipulating them for his own ends. He orchestrated the downfall of the Grand Counselor by fabricating evidence of treason within the Ministry of Revenue, using his forged documents and the minister's own seal. This public humiliation and execution of the Grand Counselor and the Minister of Revenue cleared the path for Baoshang's ascension to power. He found a grim satisfaction in inflicting the same humiliation and pain he had endured, reflecting his warped desire to destroy the world that had scorned him. Zhu's campaign against Madame Zhang was successful, but just as victory seemed within reach, Chen Yuliang, aided by an unknown patron, launched a surprise attack on Nanchang, Zhu's southernmost city, sending a gruesome message of severed hands. This forced Zhu to divert her forces from Pingzhang to confront Chen, much to Yang's anguish. Yang, seeing his revenge against the Great Khan delayed, descended into a deeper despair, his carefully managed pain threatening to overwhelm him. Zhu, recognizing his torment, provided him with a new, more intense form of pain release by biting his fingers, a physical sensation so overwhelming it temporarily erased his mental anguish. This act, both brutal and intimate, further cemented their strange, codependent relationship. Zhu, realizing she needed a navy to face Chen, traveled to Qingyuan to seek an alliance with the pirate warlord Fang Gojun. Fang, a pragmatic and powerful figure, was initially dismissive of Zhu, despite her mandate of heaven. To gain his favor, Zhu entered Fang's annual fighting competition, disguised as a woman to meet the eligibility requirements. Yang, despite his profound revulsion at being perceived as female, was forced by Zhu to participate in the competition, masked and disguised, due to his unparalleled fighting skills. His internal torment was amplified by the humiliation, but the intense pain Zhu inflicted with the needles allowed him to perform with savage efficacy, winning the competition and gaining Fang's favor. Zhu then revealed her true identity to Fang, who, impressed by her cunning and fighting prowess, agreed to lend her his fleet. However, during their negotiations, it was revealed that Chen Yuliang also possessed a red mandate of heaven and had attempted to ally with Fang. Shortly after, Zhao Yu, Zhu's engineer and a confidant, betrayed her, revealing her true gender to the Great Khan, Wang Baoshang. Yang, upon learning of Zhu's true identity, was consumed by a furious disgust, feeling utterly betrayed and humiliated by having inadvertently served a woman. He abandoned Zhu, taking his army to Dadu to pursue his long-delayed revenge. Zhu, despite Yang's betrayal, resolved to face Chen Yuliang. She devised a desperate plan to bypass Chen's barricade of hungry ghosts, the desecrated bodies of Chen's own men, designed to drain the life force of anyone who passed through them. Zhu's plan involved drowning her own men, having them pass through the ghostly blockade while technically dead, and then reviving them on the other side using Yang's resuscitation technique. Xu Da, despite his fear of drowning, willingly volunteered to lead this perilous undertaking, sacrificing himself repeatedly for Zhu's cause. During this process, Zhu learned of Xu Da's long-standing illness, realizing he had been dying since the Fortress Island raid, and that his numerous sacrifices had secretly been a gift of his remaining life to her. His death, after successfully leading the men through the blockade, profoundly grieved Zhu, forging a new, painful layer of determination. Zhu's fleet, now composed of Fang's ships and her revived army, launched a surprise attack on Chen's fleet in Lake Poyang. Despite initial setbacks, Zhu, in a desperate, brutal fight, managed to inflict a fatal wound on Chen, who revealed that an unknown patron had funded him. With Chen defeated, Zhu's path to Dadu was clear, but her victory was overshadowed by the profound grief for Xu Da and the realization of her relentless ambition's true cost. In Dadu, Wang Baoshang solidified his rule, ascending to the throne of the Great Yuan. He continued to grapple with the memory of Asen Timur and his own complex feelings towards him, convinced that his brother's ghost tormented him. He orchestrated the public execution of the Grand Counselor and other rivals, reveling in the cruelty he inflicted, believing it was a necessary act to prove his worth and avenge a lifetime of perceived slights. Yang, driven by his singular desire for revenge, led his army to Dadu. He bypassed the city's defenses through a secret tunnel, leading a small team directly to the Great Khan's palace. He confronted the Great Khan, Wang Baoshang's predecessor, and finally achieved his long-sought revenge, killing him on his throne. However, his triumph was short-lived. Wang Baoshang appeared, revealing that he had manipulated Yang's entire life, feeding him the lie of his father's noble death to fuel his revenge. He revealed that Yang's father was alive, a broken, humiliated man, effectively nullifying the very foundation of Yang's existence and purpose. Yang, shattered by this revelation, was then killed by Zhang, Wang Baosheng's agent, dying in a state of utter devastation and meaninglessness. Zhu, having learned of Yang's defeat and Wang Baosheng's ascension, devised a new, daring plan to take the throne from within. She entered Dadu disguised as a mutilated female slave from Nanchang, a city ravaged by Chen Yuliang. Her visible pain and disfigurement, though real, served as a perfect disguise, allowing her to move unnoticed within the palace city. She observed Wang Baosheng, now the Great Khan, noting his effeminate demeanor and the pervasive atmosphere of despair that seemed to emanate from him. Zhu, unable to carry a weapon herself, sought to rely on Ma, who had been summoned to the palace as a consort to the Great Khan. Ma, suffering from morning sickness due to a secret pregnancy, was struggling with the emotional burden of her role and the Great Khan's growing attachment to her. She had acquired a golden hairpin, initially a gift from the Great Khan, which she had secretly sharpened into a weapon. This weapon, intended for the Great Khan, was used by Ma to kill Zhao Yu, Zhu's treacherous engineer, who was about to expose Zhu's identity to Wang Baosheng. The act deeply pained Ma, who felt she was losing a part of herself with each act of violence. Madame Zhang, now the Empress, was consumed by jealousy over Ma's growing favor with the Great Khan, particularly after Ma was given the phoenix hairpin, a symbol of the Great Khan's highest esteem. Madame Zhang's rage erupted in a brutal physical assault on Ma, tearing at her face and hair. Zhu, witnessing Ma's suffering, felt a new, profound anguish. Despite her initial ruthlessness, the pain of those she loved now deeply affected her, making her question the cost of her ambition. Zhu then confronted Madame Zhang, revealing her true identity and the fact that Madame Zhang, in her relentless pursuit of power through men, had inadvertently denied herself the mandate of heaven, which had always been within her reach. Madame Zhang, furious at this revelation, attacked Zhu but fell to her death from the pagoda, a final, futile act of rage. Ma, now pregnant with the Great Khan's child, confronted him, revealing her identity and her understanding of his deep-seated pain and regret. She offered him a path to release his suffering by accepting her and their child, and choosing a new, compassionate future. The Great Khan, in a moment of vulnerability, revealed his profound grief and loneliness, recognizing Ma's unique ability to see and accept him. However, his self-loathing proved too deep, and he ultimately recoiled from the possibility of a different life. Zhu, having secured the palace and knowing her army was at the city's gates, finally confronted Wang Baosheng. She revealed her true identity and the full extent of his manipulations. She drew upon Yang's spectral sword, transforming it into a weapon of pure light, a symbol of her chosen fate. Faced with this overwhelming power, Wang Baosheng, in a final act of surrender, relinquished his mandate of heaven. Zhu, recognizing his inherent pain, offered him a chance for a new life, free from the burden of his past. She then confronted Yang's ghost, offering him release from his torment and promising to honor his memory in her new dynasty, allowing him to finally pass into the cycle of reincarnation. Zhu ascended the throne, proclaiming the dawn of the Ming dynasty, an era of radiant light born from her victories and the sacrifices of those she loved. Her triumph was intertwined with sorrow, recognizing the immense cost of her ambition, but also believing that this new world, forged in suffering, would be a place of loving kindness and self-acceptance, unlike the violent world that preceded it.